doing that. All right, so it looks like we've started with the recording. So I'm gonna just do our welcome again. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Bureau PAR training. Appreciate everybody for being here this afternoon as we cover this important topic. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead, jump us right in, and we will be transitioning to the next slide. Before I do that, actually, one other administrative note that I wanted to mention: we are recording this session, and we will have you all will have access to that as well as the slides, because I know that's a question that commonly comes up from folks whenever we hold these sessions. Will the slides be provided? So yes, we will be able to do that as well, but this will also be recorded for those who weren't able to attend today or for individuals that have to jump off. All right. So PAR overview, our customer perspective. We've had several conversations with many of you all over the years in regards to some of our PAR processes and submission processing. And one of the things we really wanted to make sure is that for especially folks that are new, but also those who may have been here for a while, being able to provide you all with information that will hopefully help make the process a little bit easier, avoid any confusion, and just kind of close any gaps that might be out there. And there were kind of three primary areas that we wanted to collaborate and mitigate for you all. The first one dealing with the concern of timeliness. Customers perceive that PAR submissions are not processed in a timely manner. We've heard that for quite some time, and we understand that. And in an effort to try and overcome that feeling or that sentiment, one of the things, the few of the things we wanted to do are at the bottom here of the screen in a mitigation lane that you see down at the bottom. The first one is communication. We want to align with our customers and make sure that we're leveraging all of our best practices so we can get information out there. And so one of the ways of communicating that is by doing trainings like this and making sure that we're sharing the information as much as we possibly can and as wide as we can. The other thing that we're looking at is our documents. We want to align our customers on the ES on accurately completing common PAR documents within a specified time frame. And so essentially what we're meaning by that is having you all help us help you, right? If we can make sure that we're giving you all the appropriate information up front so that you know all of the documentation that is required for these PARs, hopefully that will eliminate any delays because we won't have to go back and forth looking for documentation from you all and that nature. So we're hoping that we'll be able to clarify some of that and what documents are actually needed. And then the last one is centered around knowledge. We want to align our customers in all the common errors or those NOA codes and share helpful resources and references for you guys. I think by being able to share some of that as we go through the later slides, you'll have that at your fingertips. It'll close any confusion points for that. And it'll just make it so that, again, one of the things we always want to do is provide as many resources as we can to our customers so that you don't have to go search. You don't have to try and guess. It'll be very clear. It'll be laid out for you in the way of the knowledge that we're providing. So again, timeliness is an issue that we've heard several times, and we want to address that by those three areas: communication, documentation, and knowledge. All right, we can go ahead to the next slide. All right, so communication, utilizing the portal. For those of you, we have our enterprise services portal. Hopefully all of you all have had the opportunity to leverage that, but it is our one-stop shop for customers to initiate requests, to track requests, and access training and resources. We're primarily using the portal to communicate with our customers and as a best practice to respond as quickly and to ensure timely processing. So our portal is really where we want to drive most of you all to. We have other mechanisms from the phone into emails, but the portal really, we do firmly believe is the best way for you to be able to find everything all in one place. And so what you'll see here on the screen is what you would commonly come into if you've provided or submitted a ticket to us. You would see this screen there that's in the middle that has my tickets. And on the left-hand side there, you'll see under received. In addition to the ticket tracker showing the ticket process, customers will receive email notifications on any ticket activity. So if you submit something to us, you will more than likely get email associated with your ticket, and you should track with that information to let you know that we've received the requests you put in place, and being able to have that email readily available for future engagements if you need that. In the use the activity tab, you'll see there in the middle, that's where we respond in timely manner to ensure that your personnel action is properly processed quickly. Excuse me, that was hard to say. Under the activity tab, you'll be able to see that. Yes, and for those, I appreciate Mark for putting that out there. PAR is a personnel action request. Yes, sorry, get into the acronym so quickly, forget that everybody may not know what that is. But under that activity tab, that's where you're going to be able to see that interaction exchange of information of activities that we're working on with you all when you submit a request. If you shift over to the right, there is where you can add people to the watch list so that they can receive notifications as well. And that's really beneficial if you're going to be, say, out of the office or you want to have a backup. You can add people to the watch list and you'll be able to see those individuals listed there once you've selected them as being able to be on your watch list. And then the last thing, and I think this is probably the most critical thing, is under to-dos, and it's my to-dos. And what are to-dos? They are required actions tagged for customers to complete related to requests, such as missing documentation. And so what we're saying and suggesting is if you have a ticket and you put that in place, this is where you want to go under my tickets, and you want to see that tab there that's going to say my to-dos or to-dos. Please make sure that you're visiting there, because that's going to be the most frequent way that we're going to exchange information with you if there's something that we require from you in order to be able to process your request. So that'd probably be the first place that I would recommend going. And if you go on there and you see something and you see a little number under that My To-Dos, that's something that we need you to click on, and then make sure that you're verifying that you're completing all of those actions so that we can keep the process moving effectively and efficiently so that we don't get anything hung up. All right. So that was just a really quick way of us going over some of the portal aspects that you will probably use on the regular when you're dealing with PARs. We wanted to highlight some of those just really quickly and making sure that you guys are able to see how that is laid out when you do go on there. Just really quickly, I do see somebody had put into the chat, I can never find the attachments listed under this tab. Is this something that is something that's being looked at? So yes, we've been hearing information about attachments. You should be able to definitely find your attachments associated there. So that shouldn't be an issue, but we can continue to discuss that. And if you want to put in the chat as we move forward, we'll continue to document that. Yes, we cannot view the attachments, Jennifer, just the file name. Yeah, so we're working right now on a demand that's going to make sure that that's no longer an issue for some folks of being able to do that. So more to come on that one. All right. Okay. I think we can move on to the next slide because I want to be mindful of our time. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Takesha, who is our PAR lead, and she's going to walk you guys through the remainder of the slides. So Takesha, go ahead and take it away.
All right, thank you, Franklin. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. As everyone stated, my name is Takesha Bowens, and I am the ES PAR lead. And so we are going to briefly walk through some slides that we found that have been of interest as of late. And we want to make sure that we address certain issues that we find are common in order to help the PAR process. So we have our PAR overview. Enterprise Services provides the HR transaction services, including personnel action requests. These PARs can be initiated via various systems to be electronically routed for approval. So you ask how a PAR is initiated. PARs can be initiated via HR Connect or the ES portal. You ask who can initiate a PAR. Through HR Connect, we have managers, proxies who is designated by managers in HR Connect, and also HR professionals. Additionally, actions can be initiated through the portal by managers, portal proxies, and also HR professionals. Next slide, please. So secondly, we want to discuss the accuracy of PARs and documents. The accuracy of PARs and documents are very, very important. And if we receive documents that are 100% accurate, it will prevent us from restarting pushbacks or denies of PAR actions. So incomplete or inaccurate PARs can result in the following actions. So number one, we have restarts. So, and typically this is the the route that we use. Restart sends the actions back to the initiator to restart the request. According to the restart policy, enterprise services will restart the PAR if PARs contain errors and or there are missing documentation.
Yeah, but don't make me something I don't know. Hey, Thomas,
May-
yes, I did. I believe.
May I
I'm sorry.
ask whom?
I think we have somebody that's off mute. If everybody can just make sure their phones are or their lines are muted, that would be great. Thanks. Sorry, Takesha, go ahead.
No problem. Thanks, Franklin. If the action is restarted by enterprise services, the initiator must correct any errors and route the PAR directly to the ES PAR process by bypassing all other authorizers for approval no later than the second Friday of the pay period of the request that was originally submitted in. Excuse me. So secondly, we have pushbacks. Pushback of the action will be to the previous authorizer level. ES does not use the pushback option. However, an authorizer may use it if there is a simple error that can be easily corrected. For example, an incorrect effective date, missing required signatures, and one data field missing that would need to be updated. A PAR can be pushed back multiple times if necessary. Lastly, we have the denial of actions. This option is rarely used, but can be leveraged to remove duplicate requests. If selected, the process will end for that particular PAR action. Before I move on, I just wanted to see if there are any questions in regards to this slide.
Takesha, there's at least one that I'm seeing that just came in. If documents are missing or incomplete, is there a time frame when we can get those documents back to ES before the PAR being restarted?
So when the PAR is, if the thing is, the key to the restarting of actions is you have to pay attention to the to-dos, as Franklin stated, and or your emails. So when we send a request back, let's say if I send a request today to state, okay, your CD516 is missing, or your, let's say a final job offer letter is missing for your PAR, and we need this in order to proceed. Typically, we give you a couple of days, 2 to 3 days. If you do not submit those documents within that time frame, we would have to restart the action. We process thousands of actions a pay period, and so we have to set time frames where we are waiting for actions that need to be restarted. And if we don't receive the document in a timely manner, then we would have to restart your action. Any other questions, Franklin, you see in the chat? I can go to the chat. Let me see.
Yeah, so a lot of another comment, a lot of times we don't get any notice that there are problems. We just get a notification of restart. And then another customer's, and it's usually the last day of keying. So I don't know if it's necessarily a question, is more of a comment of what folks might be experiencing with that. But again, I think that that's where, to Takesha's point, we want to really drive folks back to the to-do lists and the emails. And we can look at that as far as, better communication. Another question, is that through the ES portal since the action hasn't been restarted? I'm not sure I'm following that. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think I understand what's being asked. So we communicate through the ES portal. So if we are missing documentation, our first way of communicating would be through the portal. We would go in, when the ticket is opened, you receive that ticket number, and whomever is on the watch list, they receive that ticket number. So we would go in that ticket, and if we need a particular document, we will send a message to you through the ES portal to say, we need whatever documentation is necessary to complete the PAR action. The key is to make sure that you utilize, Jody, I see your hand. The key is make sure that you utilize the ES portal and the to-dos. Go ahead, Jody. Jody is, she is one of the sub leads for PKG, our team that handles our processing. So go
Hey,
ahead, Jody.
Takesha, thanks so much.
You're
I just
welcome.
wanted to address some of the comments I'm seeing in the comments section about the fact that it's usually on the last day of keying, that better communication. Just to kind of give some idea of how the process works. It's understandable that to the individual that's submitting a ticket or submitting a PAR action that creates a ticket, it seems as though you are sometimes being dogged in the standpoint that you may submit an action into HR Connect 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes longer than the actual effective date of the PAR action. And I know it's frustrating for you when once we're getting close to the effective date of that PAR action that you receive a notification that says your action has been restarted or we need something more from you. And we oftentimes get the frustration from customers who say, well, you've had my action for 4 to 6 weeks. Why am I just now learning about it? And so I wanted to kind of explain that a little bit to you. First of all, as an example for this pay period, we had over 2,000 actions. We have roughly 12 PAR specialists. So if you do the math, that's a lot of actions to process in one pay period. We do have a triage team. The triage team is there for the purpose of reviewing the PAR actions against the required documents that are indicated in the HR Connect Management Self-Service Personnel Action Request form that's out on the knowledge base. Their role is to ensure that when they go in and look at the PAR action to that MSS document, that we're getting what we need and that it's accurate and complete. So the way that we work is that based on the sheer number of actions that we receive from all of you every pay period, it takes an extreme amount of work to go through and review every action from the triage perspective to even make it processable, if that's a word, able to be processed by a PAR specialist. So as much as I understand that you get frustrated that you may not find out until it's close to the effective date of the processing pay period, I just want you to understand it's based on sheer volume. We literally, again, like I said, in this pay period alone, we're processing over 2,000 actions for this pay period. So when it comes down to individuals, as much as we would like to be able to process ahead, it is very limited that we can do that just based on the volume of tickets that we get. And the tickets that we get do not stop at just PAR actions. As you all know, you can submit tickets through the portal asking questions. Those questions take research, and that research takes us away from being able to process tickets for actual PAR actions that need to be processed. So again, I will say, I apologize for the fact that it feels like you might be getting dogged in the standpoint that you've submitted something well in advance, but it is, again, nothing more than the sheer volume of tickets and the sheer amount of work that's there to be processed that keeps us from being able to work into the future.
Thank you, Jody.
Thanks, Takesha and Joe. Just wanted to add one other thing. There was a comment. We usually receive the notifications after the effective date when actions need to be processed. That is where my concern comes in. And so I think, and then there was another comment.
Well, and if I can
ahead,
just address that as well, Franklin. So part of that is because when the triage team does their initial triage, they're not looking at the breadth of what you've submitted with regard to the specifics. In other words, if we are getting an action that is past triage because all of the required documents were submitted and all the fields were completed on the CD516 as an example, it's not until it actually gets into the hands of the PAR specialist that they may realize, well, the CD516 came with the wrong titles on it and we can't process it with wrong titles. Or this job code that you gave us isn't active in HR Connect. So sometimes we are reaching out well into the pay period to ask for the things that we need to actually process the action, which kind of goes back to what Franklin and Takesha have both said, of making sure that we get the information as it needs to be submitted, complete and accurate from the get-go.
Right. And then one more thing. Thank you, Jody, for that. Someone is mentioning, Jody, it may be helpful to explain processing time that ES has after the effective date and before pay runs.
Yep, that's an excellent question. Thank you, Julie, for pointing that out. So for those that don't understand, we have an actual pay period, which is the dates that you guys see on your calendar that says the processing period, or the actual pay period is August 13th through August 26th. The PAR processing schedule, however, begins a week after that actual pay period begins and will end a week after that actual pay period ends. So where we are right now already into pay period 18, which began on the 27th of August, we are still processing actions that were effective August 13th. And we will process them through tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock, which is our cutoff time for submission of all PAR actions to the National Finance Center, because pay will run tomorrow night and generate paychecks and leave-in earning statements for pay period 13, when we are again well after the end of that processing or effective pay period. Again, effective, not processing pay period. So it's important to understand that when you guys are looking at it saying, well, things are late, or they're not telling us until after the effective pay period has already begun, it's because we are a week behind you. And when we start, and we are a week behind the end of the actual pay period when we finish. That's for every pay period throughout the year.
All right. Thank you, Jody, for that additional information. I think we still somebody's mentioning something about a CD516 that's in here. So for the sake of us continuing to be able to get through all the slides, I think we're going to cover maybe some of those aspects of the CD516 in the upcoming slides. So Takesha, I'll keep a track of this, and if we want to, we can kind of monitor the chat periodically as we go through. And there will be time for additional questions at the end. So
Sure, thanks, Franklin. All right, next slide, please. So next slide is talking about the timeliness of PARs and documents. So it's critical for customers to submit PARs according to the ES timeline to ensure the requests are processed within the desired cycle. So we do have the 2023 PAR submission calendar. It is out there on the ES portal, and we can also provide this along with the slides once we send the email out to everyone. So the PAR submission deadlines, all personnel action requests must be submitted to ES at least one full pay period, 2 weeks prior to the requested effective date. Actions submitted outside of the deadline will have the effective date moved to the next pay period. So late submission of PARs, any late submission that seeks to honor the requested effective date beyond those as listed as high priority requires the approval in writing from the Bureau PHRM and an email from the local HR to ES HR leadership providing the approval for the actions. And with backdating PARs, in order to backdate a PAR, you must have the approval from the Bureau's PHRM or designee. So you should receive the approval in writing and attach it to your request in HR Connect, along with manually setting the PAR effective date to the backdated effective date that you have chosen. Next slide, please. So we have PAR checklists that can be utilized to make sure that you have the correct documentation that is required to process your particular personnel actions. So we have a PAR checklist for EODs, and then we also have a PAR checklist for internal actions. So I'm not going to go through each line for the sake of time, but this document can also be provided along with the slides and the PAR submission deadline. Next slide, please. So briefly, we're just wanting to go over internal competitive actions. So internal competitive actions are competitive conversions, promotions, and reassignments for employees that are already employed by one of the Department of Commerce bureaus. So conversions in the federal service refer to changing an employee's current appointment to a different type of appointment without a break in service. Promotions refer to for positions under the same type of job classification system and pay schedule. A promotion changes the employee to a higher grade or makes it permanent from a temporary promotion. When the old and new positions are under the different job classification systems and pay schedules, a promotion changes the employee to a position to a higher rate of basic pay or makes a temporary promotion permanent. And last but not least, we have reassignments. A reassignment is the change of an employee from one position to another without promotion or change to a lower grade, level, or band. Reassignments includes movement to a position in a new occupational series or another position in the same series. 2, assignment to a position that has been redescribed due to the introduction or revised job classification. 3, assignment to a position that has redescribed as a result of a position review. 4, movement to a different position at the same grade, but with a change in salary that is the result of a different locale, prevailing wage rates, or a different locality payment. And 5, any movement to another bureau within the Department of Commerce. So just want to take the time just to check the chat a little bit, just to make sure there are no questions about the last few slides.
Takesha, Carrie has her hand raised. Go
Hi,
ahead, Carrie.
everybody. So my question is about the reassignments, when someone goes to a different locality pay. So this says that it's movement to a different position. But if someone stays in the same position but moves to a different state, we were under the impression, or we were told, that that would also be a reassignment, that they don't necessarily have to go to a different position for that. Because the locality pay is changing, that it would be a reassignment, not just a change in duty station.
So I'm not following you. What?
So on this number 4 under
Okay.
reassignments, it says movement to a different position is
Mhm.
one of the specifications to do a reassignment if the salary's changing, right? So we were told, we submitted a few change in duty stations, but we were told that they should be reassignments. Their position wasn't changing, only their duty station. But this is saying that if they're going to a different position. So would a reassignment with the change in duty station that changes the locality pay still be a reassignment? We were told that it would not be a change in duty station. And if you look up on the, this is to, I don't know who that is, the unknown user. But if you look at the SOP and on the ES portal, it says that it would not be a change in duty station.
So if
well, if
you
they're-
could,
go ahead.
if you could provide me specifics after the meeting, I want to know specifically, I want to see specifically what you're talking about.
Right,
If
so
that's okay?
yeah, that's fine. So we process them as reassignments, and two of them, they changed to miscellaneous pay actions or something. And a couple of them, they processed as reassignments. So we initially started submitting them as change in duty stations, but we're told that that's not the proper action.
Okay, we definitely want actions to be processed consistently, with the same NOAs if it's the same situation. So
Mhm.
I want to make sure that I capture everything and look at your specific situations. So
Okay.
all right.
Yep,
So if you
just-
don't mind just shooting me an email with the ticket numbers so
Yep,
I
sure
can
will.
take a look at the specific cases.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And Takesha, just one thing in the chat, Christina sent this for you, Carrie. We were told that last year, and Mary in HR said it isn't a reassignment. That was her comment. So
Right. So, but Mary isn't processing the action, so I feel like ES is telling us what to do for that type of situation. And they're not processing them with what we're putting it in as.
So
I would
Jody,
bring
if
that
you-
up to Mary, Carrie, because she had to go and take it higher with that for ours last year.
Okay, but they're still, even though it was last year, they're still doing them not as, they still
Yeah.
want them as reassignments, so,
Yep.
okay.
And Jody just posted some clarification in the chat too about a miscellaneous pay adjustment.
Jody, do you mind coming off mute?
No, not at all. So when we receive change in duty location actions, if it is changing their locality area and it is changing nothing else, and I know that sometimes we're told, oh, it doesn't change anything else, and then we go on to the CD516 and we see that there's been an org structure change, or you've changed their position number. For a change in duty location to actually process as a 792 action, which is a true change in duty location action, the only thing that can change is the duty location code, nothing else. However, because we have got so many different locality areas across our country, when someone moves from a locality area to a different locality area, and they have a change in duty location code and nothing else is changing, we do change those to an 890 miscellaneous pay adjustment. Now, oftentimes you may not think that you have changed something else, but believe it or not, HR Connect is smart enough on its front end system, and NFC is smart enough on its front end system to say when we send something through that we may have even missed, is the fact that if it sees something that is changing besides just the things I just talked about, it will actually flag that action, put it into error because it's saying, hey, you can't change the org structure on this action. Again, we're processing just your action, and sometimes we may miss the fact that you had, because you're using an old version of a CD516, or somebody else has gone in there and done something to it that you were unaware of, that you've submitted something that's got another change on there that is not apparent. And we get it oftentimes through that type of error code. And then we come back to you and say, what are we doing here? But sometimes there are legitimate changes that you want, and we cannot process them as just a change in duty location or even a miscellaneous pay adjustment. That's when they do have to be processed as reassignments.
Right, so all these employees, nothing else changed on the CD516 because especially once the first one came back, we triple checked them. And nothing else changed except for the duty station on the ones that we did.
Okay, so the
so
only thing I would tell you, Carrie, is if that's the case, if you want to provide a list to me, I can go back and
Yeah.
take a look at them.
Yeah, we'll provide a list. And also if there was a discrepancy, I mean, wouldn't you guys have reached out to us to let us know there was a discrepancy?
Well, yes, we would, and we oftentimes do reach out. What's unfortunate is that we sometimes reach out over and over and over again through the ticket and we get no response. So if it's a situation where we're trying to determine, okay, you've clearly given us this and we see something different. It's a matter of, do we want to affect this employee's pay or affect this employee's action? And we oftentimes have to come out of the ticket and reach out to customers through Outlook, because our questions through the ticket, which is how we're advised we're supposed to communicate, go unanswered.
Okay, we'll send you the ticket numbers. I'll have to get them from my staff, and we'll get those to you as soon as
Perfect.
possible. Thank you. Sorry for taking them so much time with that one.
All righty, next slide, please. Thanks, Jody. We also have,
Takesha, I'm sorry,
Yes.
really quickly. There was one other one that just came in, I believe here. Other than salary or health plan, what else is affected by the change in duty location?
so,
It could be their taxes.
yes, the taxes.
You could have an effect on taxes, which is the primary thing I can think of. Health insurance only if you're in a situation where you're on a plan specific to your area. Maybe you're on a oh, what are they called? Help me, somebody. Where you're like, if you're participating in something that's just within your area, and now you've switched to an area that doesn't offer that plan, so you're going to have to go to a nationwide plan. What is it?
Your regional HMO
Yeah.
or HMO?
Yeah, there you go. HMO. Thank you. They've kind of gone by the wayside. So yeah, if you're in an HMO that your change in duty location is going to take you out of that participating HMO area, you will need to either search for an HMO in your new area or switch over to a national plan. So that's one thing that may possibly change. Again, your taxes may possibly change.
TSP
Short of
will-
that, those are the two
TSP
biggies.
will change too, because your pay is changing, so your TSP will change.
That's
the
if
amount-
your pay is changing.
If
on
your
a
pay is changes, yeah.
Right, right.
All righty, so we have, again, our internal competitive action checklist, and we will send the checklist out along with all of the other documentation. For the sake of time, I won't go through each block, but just with the required documents for our competitive actions, we'll have the SF52 or Power Recruit, either or, final job offer letter, certificate of eligibles, the CD516, position description, the employee resume, and for CAPS employees, the approved CAPS pay request memo, and the vacancy announcement. So in regards to the timeline, the forms need to be attached to the EOD ticket no later than the Wednesday before the effective date that the PAR action is being requested. Next slide, please. So just a quick SF75 overview. So what is the SF75? The SF75 form is used to obtain pre-employment information because the applicant's EOPF is not available for review. When might the EOPF be unavailable for review? Most often, the EOPF may be unavailable for review when the applicant works in the same agency but receives personnel services from another office. The applicant's EOPF is on file in another agency, even though the applicant is not employed there, or the applicant's EOPF has been retired to the National Personnel Records Center, but the last employer has the most of the information needed. Next slide, please. So there is a routing process or preparation process of the SF75 information, and this will be provided with the slides. But when an employee notifies the manager of the intent to transfer out, the manager initiates a PAR in HR Connect, coordinates with the employee to complete the SF75 and other separation forms, and submits the form to ES. And notice this is for the HQBs only, as Census, BEA, and NOAA do not receive TA services from enterprise services. Next slide, please. So here we have the SF75 information form. The information that is important to be filled out in regards to the employee, of course, the employee's name, their grade, their series, their current step that they currently hold, their current salary, their health insurance, their life insurance, as well as their TSP information if they have a TSP loan, their career tenure information, and their SED leave, RIF, retirement, and TSP dates. Next slide, please. And again, this is just a continuation of the SF75 information, and I've named the fields that are important to be filled out for the particular employee. Next slide. So as the SF75 is completed, please remember the following. The request for SF75 information for an incumbent to a position within your organization should be made along with the start date. SF75 information should be reviewed by local HR prior to the incumbent's start date. SF75 information should be included with the new hire package submitted to enterprise services. Again, SF75 information must include the following details about the incumbent: the name, the social security number, date of birth, retirement data, benefits data such as TSP, health insurance, life insurance data, grade and pay data, SF50 data as it relates to the employee's current position, service computation dates, RIF, TSP, leave, and retirement, education data, current appointment data, and data regarding probationary periods. So note supplemental vision and dental insurance with benefits is not included on the SF75 information. Next slide, please.
Takesha, there was one question. Are you sending, are you sending the TSP 41 with the 75 info? Was a question.
So the TSP 41, is that the beneficiary form that states who would receive your TSP? Because the TSP one is the regular TSP form.
Lori said no. Lori, did you want to just come off of mute?
Hi, thanks, Franklin. Hi, Takesha. So when I was at the NFC summit in July, they spoke directly about the TSP 41 form, that the losing agency is supposed to supply that with the 75 information. So I didn't know if when we receive 75 information, if ES was receiving that 41, which is a really important form to have.
So let me take that back and talk with our benefits group to see if we are actually receiving that form. And then I can follow up with you, Lori.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
You're welcome. No problem, Lori. Thank you. All righty, now for our CD516 overview. So the classification and performance management record, the CD516, is used in the classification process to describe job positions. So CD516 completion is required for submitting classification requests, submitting recruitment requests, competitive actions, certain PARs including change in duty station, change to lower grade, conversions, promotions, reassignments, realignments, and temporary promotions. So we ask that if you require more information on the CD516 and recruitment and hiring process, please see the classification and recruitment knowledge articles on the ES portal. Next slide, please. So we only have 9 minutes left, and I want to allow time for more questions. So I don't want to go through each field on the CD516, but we have required fields on the CD516. And I want to make mention our most recent change in addition to the CD516, which are fields 9B and C. So of course, that's a new requirement that was mandated by OPM that we have implemented effective pay period 18, and those codes will be required to be completed on the CD516. Again, that's the remote telework indicator and the project and program management field. And so with those particular codes, we are asking that for the old CD516s to make sure that one, though, if you're using the old CD516s, that information is included in the remarks section. Two, provide us with a new classified CD516 that would have the new fields 9B and C filled out. Or three, providing us the old CD516 pages 1 and 2 and the new page 2 CD516 that will have the completed 9B and C blocks. We will also provide the CD516 that captures the fields that are highlighted in yellow that must be filled out and must be accurate. Yes, Mr. Pedroza, please come off mute. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you very much. When, if at any point, will enterprise services stop accepting that third page and say you must use the revised 516? Is there a date or no?
There is not a date set yet. We are still in communication with OHRM. There will be a couple more revisions to the current CD516. And so we're waiting until those revisions have been completed before we say, okay, hey, I'm just saying this date is not set in stone. After December 31st, 2023, we will no longer be accepting the old CD516s. But we are waiting until we have the most up-to-date CD516 until we say, okay, we will no longer be receiving or accepting the old CD516s with the remarks.
All right, thank you. Thank you on that. And just one last follow-up on this same forum. Do you know what those changes are? What changes are coming?
So we have some fields that we want to make the drop downs on the fields. So that is typically what we're looking for. On the remote telework field, there's some more information that we've requested to be added. So there are minor changes that are going to be made, nothing major.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Takesha, there was one other moment that I'm seeing here, most recent. There were some other ones, but while the 516 was recently updated to include 9B and 9C, can there be an effort made to further update this form? Page 1, we haven't used Part B for decades. Incorporating reports would be valuable. Many other updates are needed to this form, but I'll stop here.
So if you have requests of updates to the form, please feel free to email me. And we can definitely bring this to OHRM's attention. In fact, we just had a meeting this morning about some changes. So it would be helpful if you could email me as soon as possible, because we want to submit all of the changes all at one time. We don't want them to, receive multiple requests on the CD516 updates.
I think that's it for right now, Takesha.
Okay.
Oh, we have Toya has her hand raised.
Good afternoon. I just have a question. When when ES is reviewing the CD516, are you all just looking at, I guess, the organization information that's on page 1 all the way at the top? Or are you looking at the org structure that's on page 1 and page 2 and the remarks?
We look at the CD516 and its completion. We look at each field because, as you know, or maybe not sure if you know, the CD516 is used to build the positions within HR Connect. So with that being said, we have to look at each field in order to make sure that we are using the information from the CD516 to build a particular position so that we can process the personnel action request for the employee.
Right, and to make sure they're placed correctly. Okay. Got it.
Correct.
Thank
Yes.
you.
You're welcome.
Another comment just came in, Takesha. Are there any plans to automate some of this process? Triage reviews, for example, seem like something an AI can do. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that one. We're constantly looking at ways that we can modify things, but.
Yes.
You also have another hand up, Franklin, by the way.
Okay. I can't see who that person is, so if you want to just come off mute, that would be great.
It's Julie Birch.
Hey, Franklin, it's Julie Birch. I just wanted to comment on the updates to the CD516, and my comment got a lot of likes and hearts. So I think there's, across bureaus, there's a probably interest in looking to update that form. So happy, and Franklin, I don't know if you recall, but several months ago, maybe longer than that, but we kind of flagged this on a working group that we were on, that you were spearheading, about a desire to pull a group together to look at updating this form. So if we can leverage that, and the folks on here that seem to be interested in the same, I'd be happy to, be part of a working group to look at what changes need to be made to put forth in one effort versus, different bureaus doing that. I just wanted to flag that.
No, yeah, I definitely recall that. And a component of us having these conversations today were centered around that. But yes, I think that that's something that we can absolutely look at. Takesha, you and I, we can chat about that as well.
Sure.
Yep.
All right, Madeline, next slide, please. So CD516 general reminders. As you complete the CD516, please remember the following. The master record number should already be populated on the CD516 when presented for submission to ES, along with the package for PAR processing. The classification certification portion on page 1 must be completed on all CD516s. All of the mandatory fields on the CD516 must be completed to ensure the processing of the PAR. The information included in Part A, which is the key data, and Part B, which is the master record, must match the job code information found in HR Connect. The official title in the classification certification section on page 1 must match the official title found in Part B of the Master Record section on page 2 of the CD516. The official title on the CD516 must be aligned with OPM's position classification standards. Fields on the CD516, such as the pay plan, duty station, official title, etc., must match the power crew or SF52 and final job offer letter provided in the package to process the PAR action. The working title found in Part C of the individual position section is not a required field on the CD516, but if a working title is necessary for the position, the field must be completed on the CD516. And last but not least, the CD516 is a required document for most PAR actions that involve changes in pay and/or positions. So again, when providing the CD516, if you use this checklist to make sure that the CD516 is completed, then we would most likely avoid any restarts concerning the CD516. Next slide, please. And I know we are over by 2 minutes, and so we appreciate your time. I know your time is valuable. And so just quickly going over just NOAs, the 100 series are used for appointments, normally with employees that are not on DOC's roles. The 200 series are return to duties from a non-pay status. The 300 series is separations. The 400 series is placement in non-pay and non-duty status. The 500 series are conversions to an appointment. The 600 series is reserved for OPM use. The 700 series is reserved for position changes, extensions, and miscellaneous changes. The 800 series are pay changes and miscellaneous changes. And the 900 series are DOC specific changes. Next slide. Lori, yes, please come off mute.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just want to verify the 300 series, the separations like retirements, removals, terminations, when those get pushed back, the date does not get changed, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you.
We're not allowed or not supposed to change retirement dates or separation dates, removals, any of those dates. So our next slide, we just wanted to provide resources for you in regards to PAR topics. We have several micro trainings and knowledge articles that will be available once we send the slides to you that can assist with PAR processing. And also, please subscribe to the DOC YouTube channel, and you'll be able to access the YouTube channel through the link when we send the slides. Next slide. So we just want to say thank you for joining us today. Please keep an eye out for more training opportunities and information from Enterprise Services. And we just want to ask, are there any more questions in regards to our training today?
So there was a couple of last ones that came in here. I'm just trying to catch these really quickly. CAP salary memo for PARs. Are these required on all submissions?
Only for CAPS employees. So if you have an individual that is a change in pay, so if this employee is receiving a promotion and their pay is changing, of course, on a promotion, and they are a CAPS employee, we would need this the memo to go along with your submission.
Go ahead, Christine. You can come off of mute. This was your question.
Thank you. I'm only asking because when I'm doing conversions, somebody was hired as, VRA accepted, and I'm converting them now to career. They're asking, they're all being restarted, asking for submissions or for cap salary memos, saying that they don't know if there's a change in salary. So I'm just questioning, should just be normal practice to always submit one?
So Jody,
They're saying they didn't know on
If
a
I can have a
conversion.
voice in this, my response would be yes. And the reason for that is because we don't set pay on CAPS actions. And when you're submitting something such as a conversion, there is the possibility that pay could change on a conversion. So when you don't submit anything, we have no way of knowing if we were to go in and use the salary that the person is already on. We've received tickets later on and say, well, I didn't get whatever I was supposed to get as far as a pay increase. We would have no way of knowing that. So if we could just get in the habit of submitting a pay action request mem, or even if you just submit it on a 52, you don't have to submit a 52, but if you do, if you can just put the pay on there, and it just will help us in making sure that we are being accurate in the pay that you are intending for that employee. Otherwise, it's guesswork.
So Jody, can we put it in the remarks in that comment section when we submit a PAR? Is that good enough or no? I'll do whatever, because I think you're right.
We would prefer if it can come in on a pay action mem or on, like I said, on an SF52. I know some bureaus choose to submit 52s when they don't necessarily have to. So if we can see something that just indicates to us the grade, the interval, and the salary, that way everybody's boxes are checked.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
There was another question in here. I'm trying to go back through here to find it. There was a question that was
hi,
asked.
my name is Donna Bumper, and I was asking how long are the PARs valid for after and subsequent to classification? Over.
Takesha, I can't answer that one. That's not a question. That's a classification question.
Can you?
And I guess I'm asking because when you submit the these actions that require a PD, is there a timeline in which the PD a window in which it should be? Are they unexpirable until you classify them the next time?
Hey, Takesha, it's Sandy. I can take this.
Hi, Sandy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome. Hey, Donna. So Department of Commerce does not have a classification policy that says PDs have to be reviewed in a certain number of years. I know some of the bureaus out there have a practice in place that they review PDs every 5 years, but there is no policy from the department standpoint. So I'm going to say that these PDs are valid. If they need to be reclassified, they would be reclassified because the duties of the position have changed. Something other than just that they're old. If the duties are still applicable to the PD, then they do not need to be reclassified and they do not expire.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I clarified and verified that. Have a wonderful day. And the PAR team, this was an excellent training session as a new employee to DOC. Over.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Sandy. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
Hey, Takesha, there was a question in here that said, will HRC be updated on the PAR side to accept Adobe portfolio uploads since there is a limit to only linking 5 documents? And we, from the PAR aspect, when you're submitting documents through portfolio, what's happening is some of them do not open. Secondly, what happens is, depending upon the number of documents that you're providing, I one day opened a portfolio and it took 42 minutes from the time that I downloaded the portfolio, opened it on my desktop, opened every individual document that was attached in there, saved it back to my desktop, merged it into an Adobe file, and attached it to the PAR action.
Wow.
So saying that, our request is you can merge documents together into an Adobe file, not a portfolio. What you cannot merge unless you are saving them from your Adobe printer are the documents that have a digital signature. So if you could merge everything else minus your digital signature documents and attach those and then attach your digital signature documents separately, I'm trying to consider a time when we would have more than 5. And I'm having a hard time imagining that we would have more than 5. I realize that we sometimes get PDs that have digital signatures. We sometimes get SF52s that have digital signatures. We sometimes get pay action request memos that get digital signatures. But everything else is lacking a digital signature, can be combined into an Adobe file and attached to the PAR action. And then there was also a question about the supervisory on the prefix when you're building your job codes. So the problem that we're running into is that when people are building job codes in HR Connect and you're checking the box or using the drop down and picking S for supervisory on the prefix, many people are then typing supervisory into the title. So when it populates to NFC and we are verifying that your action is applied, what we're seeing is supervisory, supervisory. So what we've talked to Takesha about is that we should bypass the prefix, doing the drop down and selecting supervisory and just typing supervisory into the official title so that it will be consistent in NFC as it will be in HR Connect. And we won't have to send actions back to you and ask you to make corrections, which then could potentially affect a line of employees that are attached to that one job code, which would then create correction tickets that I know you don't want to have to submit.
Okay, I think Takesha and Jody, there was a last few hands I see. Christine, was your hand still raised?
No, it was not. I did throw in my last question though in the chat, so I apologize.
Oh, no worries. Let's see. And then Lori, I see your hand still raised.
Hi, so Jody, I just have a quick question. At NOAA, we have some people who are still going by the old guidance of submitting the CD529 and the CD126 to their, like, say, retirement action. We have been requesting that the employee or that their line office follow the offboarding ticket that's going to be generated for them and letting them know that we're going to remove those from the HR Connect action. Is that correct, or should we be leaving those on there and letting you guys take care of that for us? I mean, I just want to make sure we're doing things correct.
So that's actually a payroll delivery team question because we don't handle, the PAR team does not handle the CD 126 or the CD 529. What I will tell you, however, is that I have not heard anything from the payroll delivery team lead indicating in any way, shape, or form that they will not themselves go out and pull the respective forms from your HR Connect action. So before they would reach out to you guys, I believe that she has instructed her team to go ahead and check the PAR action to see if it is attached to the PAR action and move it over to the respective lump sum payment ticket.
Okay, and that's Tareen, correct?
No, that would be Cynthia Newman.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll ask. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
I think that, was there one more hand up? I can't tell. Oh, Latoya, your hand is still raised. Go ahead.
I have a 516 question, and I'm not sure if you all can answer this, but hopefully you can. I'm currently working on a reassignment, and I submitted I submitted the packet into Enterprise Services and was told that the master record hasn't been established in HR Connect with the new SON/POI number, and then was reverted back to classification to get that information added there. But classification is saying that they can't add it because it was left blank. So I'm kind of at a standstill with my action and not sure how to go forward.
Latoya, what agency are you with, or what bureau?
I'm with NOAA, and I'm with my line office is OAR.
Okay, if you want to set up a Google chat with me, I'll have you go ahead and share your screen with me, and we can take a look at it together, and we can see if we can brainstorm a solution for you.
Okay, and I'm sorry, this is Jody?
Jody, yep, that's correct.
Thank you, Jody.
You're so welcome.
All right, Takesha, I don't see any other hands raised, and I think anything that's left is comments. But we, as I said from the top, are recording the session, and we can go back and double check all of the chat. And if there's anything that was outstanding, we'll circle back. I think the biggest thing that I'm noting is training or some kind of group for the CD516. Folks seem very interested in that. We've had conversations in the past, so I think that's definitely a follow-up item. But again, thank everybody for your time on the call today. Appreciate all of the questions and comments. And we will have this recording available, and we will also be sending out the slides, and there will be other communications as we look for other opportunities to share information like this with all of our customers in the near future. So thank you. Takesha, did you have anything else you want to add?
I just want to say thank you to everyone for your time. We appreciate your comments, your questions, and please look out for more trainings in the future. And if you have any suggestions or any PAR trainings that you may like, please feel free to email me, and we will see if we can put the training together for you.
All right. I think that's it. And I see, I think we're closing out now. So thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Take care.